Oh, literally. God damn it.
It's on.
The webinar? Mm-hmm. Do we have to listen?
And if you want to learn.
Be here.
I know, I love.
Okay. Still like XYZ? Still
Yeah, there's people online. There's 11 people online. Oops.
Yeah, you can do it on your socials.
All right, if you have questions, you guys will be able to unmute yourself so that you can ask a question, but for now you're muted. All right. All right.
I'll be here.
I'm not sure we're
It
supposed to
starts at
be.
9, right?
Okay, I think it's recording already.
I think I'm gonna sleep here Friday night. I hate getting up early.
They have showered mine.
Already?
I know.
Yep.
All good? All right. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. So we have 11 people online on Zoom.
Okay.
And I'm going to be introducing Kelly again. Kelly was here a couple weeks ago. Kelly's from FaithLife, one of our favorite providers for insurance and whole life policies especially. When I was here before, I talked about the whole life policy, which is really an awesome paid up 20 whole life pay policy. And there's also a lot of other great things that Kelly's going to be talking about as well. So thanks everyone for being online. You can hopefully hear and let us know if you can't. We'll monitor the chat. And thanks everyone who's here today for being here today. Let's give it up for Kelly.
So I'm going to rely on you because you're close to it. If somebody yells at a question to maybe flag me, because last time I couldn't really hear people very well. So I don't want anybody to be ignored. What we're going to do today is, now are any of you back for a repeat of this presentation? You've already seen it, and it was just so riveting you came back?
Yes.
I don't know about that, but okay, it's going to be exactly the same. There's not going to be a lot of change. My jokes will probably be worse. But what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about our insurance portfolio. So we're going to talk about our term insurance portfolio first. Then we're going to talk about our whole life product, which is fairly new to the market, just over a year, this version of it, and we really like it. It's a great product. Talk about our term to 100 product and some of the features it has, and then I'm going to walk you through some of the ways to do the illustrations. So how many of you have already downloaded the illustration software? Okay, So if you haven't yet, that's one of the things. It might be on your back office. I'm not sure.
It
But if
is.
it's okay, there you go.
Yeah,
So you don't even have to do that. So it's probably on your back office. You can download it then, and you can fiddle with some of the stuff I'm going to show you a little bit later on. Okay.
Are we going to be able to do, will we have time to do like a real life illustration?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
Because I have a client.
Okay, yeah, we can do one for sure. So let's just move on then. So we're going to talk about, as I said, the product shelf, the competitive products, and some of the unique features that we have with our products. So this is just kind of a look at our Term 10 product. Okay, so we offer term just like everyone else, right? We offer term 10, 20, and 30 with our term shelf. And when you look at this, you get kind of an idea of where we land as far as pricing. So this is, I believe this one is off CompuServe, I believe. And you'll see that in this scenario, just a typical 10-year term on a 40-year-old. Is that bouncing or is that my head?
No, it's bouncing.
Okay, why?
Probably just because this is moving, right?
Okay, all right, it is, okay, so hopefully I'm not bothering anybody, but it's a little.
Sometimes it does.
Okay, it's moving a little bit, I apologize for that. So as you can see on this slide, we are ranked in first place in this scenario. This is a male non-smoker. He is 40 years of age, and that's for $250,000 of insurance. So the thing that often happens with this, and I want to see if it's on here or not, is if you look at the 20-year term insurance, you look at this and you kind of go, oh, okay, well, we're in 7th place. Now, the one thing about CompuServe, as you probably all know, any of these types of software, often the difference between number 1 and number 20 can be as little as $5. You often get things like this where there's so many that have exactly the same price because in most cases, mortality isn't a whole lot different carrier to carrier. Carriers price based on the experience they've had, the death claims they've had to pay out. So that's a lot of what affects pricing, right? Now, the one thing, though, that's different about FaithLife is we use actual age when we do our pricing. So instead of where all the other carriers use age nearest, so the minute you are 6 months and 1 day past your birthday, you are a year older on everybody else's policies. We don't do that. This actual age is kind of an older style of doing things, but it's the way we've stayed with it. So often what you're looking at here is a scenario where you're thinking, well, this means that, FaithLife is in 7th place, but that's not necessarily true because reality in real life, because we're saying, no, granted, yes, that person is, has a January birthday and it's now September, we're not making them a year older where the other carriers are. We're keeping them still at their actual age. And I think I mentioned to a few of you, like, I don't know, like, have any of you ever had that scenario where you're sitting with a customer and you're trying to do an illustration for them and, they're 46 years old and you're running an illustration and they're like, no, that says I'm 47. I'm not 47. Right? And you're trying to explain to them, well, no, that's how insurance companies do it. They use, the age nearest pricing and customers annoyed. And I think I told the group last time that I'm going to be 50 this summer. And if you try to tell me now that I'm already 50, I'm not going to be very happy with you. So, and some people, they might, kind of go, hey, come on. So we still stick with the age, the actual age when it comes to price. So in a scenario like that, we would actually come out cheaper for a good chunk of the population. As I mentioned before, though, pricing is pretty tight on term stuff, I find it. You don't usually get a big range at the end of the day. What people are largely buying is the advice of the advisor and the advisor's recommendation of what company to go with. This is a term 30 product. Same scenario, male non-smoker, $250,000. Again, in this scenario, we may look more expensive, but again, if you were, depending on the client, if we're using actual age, we could actually be quite a chunk cheaper than it shows. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. And I think I mentioned to most people last time is if you're really unsure, run an actual quick illustration and it tells you, right, when I show you the illustrations in a few minutes, it shows you exactly where on there the price is really quick. You don't have to do a full illustration. As you're inputting, it's going to give you the price pretty quickly to get that accurate amount. So along with it, so I mean, term is term, right? Right? It's 10-year, 20-year, 30-year. You know, they're typically all convertible to age 70, renewable to age 80. Like nothing too terribly exciting. One of the things that we do is we offer a term conversion credit, which is kind of unique to our T10, 20, and 30 policies. And what that means is we apply an actual premium credit if the client decides to convert the policy to a permanent policy within a certain time frame. So for example, if they in the first year decided they wanted to do it right away. So where an example of this would apply is if somebody wasn't 100% sure of maybe the exact need at the time, but they wanted to get the underwriting process done. And you often find that with businesses, right? If they're trying to calculate out, exactly how much do we need for a buy-sell agreement, or all of that type of stuff. Sometimes people really want to just get the underwriting process started, so they may apply for a term plan to start with. And then, because sometimes, especially if you're dealing with business, it takes 6 months before you get all the answers that you need, but you've made sure that that person is insured and they have insurance should anything happen. But then if they then go, okay, but now I really want a whole life, then we will take the 100% of the premium and we'll credit it to the permanent policy up to $500. And that applies in year 2 as well. It's still 100%, and then it starts to kind of decrease over time. So if they don't make the decision until 5 years out, we'll still apply 40% of it towards it as a credit. But yeah, then after 5 years, it's kind of done. It's a regular conversion. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit, we'll probably spend most of the time on the whole life product. As I mentioned, it's only been out, we had an older whole life product just over a year ago. And the challenge we had with the product was it wasn't competitive from the standpoint of, it was really price competitive, like it was cheap, but it had very little growth inside of it as compared to a lot of the competitors out there. And so that was the feedback we were getting. So we came out with a new product, a much better invested par fund that actually achieves quite a lot of growth. We like to think we kind of have the best of both worlds in that if somebody needs permanent insurance and they really want the growth within it, then our whole life products can give them that growth. If they're the type of person that needs a permanent product but really doesn't want any, they don't care if there's any growth in it, then we have a term to 100 product. So it's being able to give the clients the choice, right? So in this scenario, what you're looking at is a male non-smoker, age 40, with $100,000 of whole life insurance, and this is a pay-for-life scenario, and this is just looking at a straight premium comparison only. We're not comparing anything other than premium. So if you look at it from this standpoint, our product is slightly higher in price than a number of them, and like not a huge amount over some of them, quite a bit over Sun Life. So one of the things that I want to point out here is our product is an actual participating product, okay? Which means that we don't have shareholders. We don't, our company is not publicly traded on the stock exchange. We're not concerned about shareholder equity. What we care about are the people that are members of our company. And by members, we mean policyholders. And so because we operate as a fraternal benefits society, that means that the bulk of our actual profits that we make on products actually goes back into doing charity work. So it goes back to the causes that our members care about. So that's what we do with all of our profits. So we have a dividend fund. We are a participating, so we are like a participating company. The difference is with a company like Sun Life is a publicly traded company, right? So that means if you look up the TSX, you will see the going rate today for shares of Sun Life Financial. So that means it's not a participating type policy. They've tried to mimic a whole life policy to make it look participating, but at the end of the day, where we give our members dividends, instead of doing that, really what Sun Life is doing is they're able to increase their price of their shares for their shareholders, right? So that's why, part of why their whole life product is significantly cheaper, and you'll see why in a minute when we start looking at the internal growth of the policy. So if you actually look at this, so this is the exact same $100,000 policy for the male non-smoker age 40. Now you're starting to see the difference in the actual cash value growth, right? And so this is FaithLife right here. This is Sun Life back here, and then this is the others that were on there, kind of in between. I'm going to wind up tripping on that. Not going to be pretty. So kind of give you an example, at duration 35, when this client is 75 years old, so 35 years later, our cash value is projected to be $215,063. So as you see, that's actually quite a bit higher than all of the others, Sun Life included, for a variety of reasons. One of those being, we're not a publicly traded company, okay? Sun, Canada, and Manu are all publicly traded companies. Foresters is a fraternal benefit society like us. Honestly, I don't know how their par fund is managed. Ours is managed really well. I'm going to show that in a few minutes. So that is the one difference. So yes, you have to pay more money, but you got a lot more growth. And ultimately, that means that the ultimate death benefit is going to be higher. Now, the other, to maybe do a kind of more of an apples to apples comparison, what we then did was we said, okay, assume each one is paying the same premium, initial premium. So would have had to alter like the face amounts with all the other carriers to make them slightly higher to catch up to our premium. But if we assume everybody's paying the exact same premium, the $24.95, then this is what happens with the cash values. Okay, so ours are still a good chunk out there. You're starting to see now, though, that Sun Life has moved up a bit because you're putting that much more money into the policy. But still, it's still a comparison showing you that even paying the same amount of money, the cash value growth is still higher over here. Okay? Everybody got that? Life group? Not like a rowdy Saturday group. So if you look at this, this is the exact same comparison. And what this is actually showing you now is the total death benefit curve. So that's where you've taken the face amount plus the values. And so this is kind of what the total, sorry, that's making me nauseous when it bounces. So you're showing it, so you're seeing that the total death benefit amount is $335,000 and 887. And it is a bit of a jump down, like to the next one, and then to Sun Life kind of at the bottom. So that's also something to consider when you're looking at this product. A lot of times when people are looking at this product, they have kind of a part of why they look at it. Number one, they want the growth. They want something because you can do a lot with. Oh, so it's just maybe the dealer. Okay. Okay. So if you look at why people would want this, for a variety of reasons, obviously they have a life insurance need, but also something like this is going to grow against inflation, right? So as their need might grow over time for insurance, so does the actual insurance. The other thing though is the investment portion does a couple of things. It's a tax sheltered investment, meaning that there's no tax paid on the growth in it unless they take it out. What a lot of people like to do with them is take a policy loan. Within the policy, you can loan up to 90% of the cash value amount within the policy. And a really great example, I'm probably jumping ahead. Actually, I'm going to hold that thought for a little later, actually. But that's, ideally, it starts out with a fairly small face amount and can grow quite well over the years.
Okay,
Yes.
90% policy,
Yeah.
you have to take it out.
Yep.
So there's a 10% in that. Is that the money is still going on 10% that's left behind it, or the money is going?
Yes,
'Cause we
the
take
money
it
will
out.
still be growing on that. And so what happens is you take out the loan, and then, there will still be some money left, some dividends left within the policy, for sure.
Like whatever is left, whatever
Yes.
percentage you take
Yes.
after that, whatever's left, the money is going on that.
It's still
based on
growing
that.
at base, it's still in the par fund. Yes, it's still growing on that. Most people won't go as high as the 90%. It's just, it is an option, but I do find that most people won't go quite that far. And we'll kind of talk a little bit, when we look at the 20-pay version of this, we'll talk a little bit about an actual kind of application and how somebody might actually do that and use the loan. So what this actually shows you is the internal rate of return within the policy. And I'm going to show some illustrations and stuff a little bit later on, but sometimes people say, okay, well, what does that mean? If it's inside there, what is it really earning? And so when you look at our internal rate of return, we're the red one up at the top. So you can see that our internal rate of return within the policy is higher than the other carriers. Now, the one thing to keep in mind when you're talking about internal rate of return is I mentioned to you that when something is sitting inside the policy and earning interest, what's special about the interest that's within that policy?
Tax-free.
Yes, it's tax-free. So if you were to compare that to, say, a non-registered investment, you would have to assume that you would have to be basing it on the assumption that the non-registered investment was earning close to twice as much because they got to pay tax on it, right? If it's a non-registered investment. So one of the applications of this is people who have fully funded their RRSPs possibly and have tapped out their tax-free saving account, and they're looking for somewhere else to put money that they're not, it's going to grow and they're not going to pay tax on it until they're in a lower tax bracket, right? So using a whole life product is a great way to do that. So like I said, the internal rate of return, you might look at that and go, well, yeah, okay, but 4.5, 4, that's not great. Well, really, you're talking in the ballpark of 9%, really, because if you have to consider the fact that a non-registered investment is taking tax off, right? I think this was just looking at it a lot. Yeah, it is. It's just getting in there closer and making your head hurt. So this is an internal rate of return death benefit compare, and it just shows you over time what the growth rate is on that total death benefit. So we're coming back at 6.58% is the growth rate on that. It shows Manu, Canada, and Sun, and they're all fairly close together on theirs. Part of, I suspect they probably have a lot more overhead and expenses as well. And then the other difference, like I said though, is we are not a share held company, right? Whereas all these three have to, ensure that their stock prices are going up for their shareholders. We don't have to worry about that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the same product, but as a guaranteed paid up in 20 years. So that means that it's the premium, it's a 20-year premium, it's the same every single year, and as soon as your 20 premiums are paid, you're done. There's no more premium to be paid ever on the policy. And so this shows you, we're looking at a child policy here, and so this is a 5-year-old 20-pay policy for $100,000, okay? And if you look across the board, you look at the different products that are available, and so this is really where we excel, is this product for juveniles. It's a fantastic product for kids, in that if you look at it, our 20-pay is $1,250 a year for that product. Sun's is a little higher, Canada Life's is a little lower. It's kind of, up and down a little bit there. But it is a great product for children for sure. It's also, a 20-pay is also really good for people who don't want to have any premium to pay once they're retiring, right? Once they're on their fixed income, and they're drawing on their retirement sources and they don't want to have to, they want to make sure they don't have any premiums left. A 20-pay is a great, great product for them. So you could be talking to clients who are in their, early to mid 40s, and you could sell them for their permanent portion of their insurance needs. You could sell them a 20-pay, and it could be paid up when they go to retire, and they don't have to worry about it anymore, right? Which is kind of a nice thing. So this is, when you look at this gives you the same thing with the total death benefit comparison on the 20-pay. So Sun Life's is showing a little bit higher towards you're getting it right about here. Now this is a 5-year-old, right? So right around retirement age, they're starting to show theirs kind of going up quite a bit. The thing that is of use, a lot of people go, well, why does a 5-year-old need a whole life policy, right? Anybody have any ideas why a 5-year-old might want a whole life policy? Or their parents might want them to have a whole life policy? I'm sure the 5-year-old could care less.
Paid off after 20.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's paid off. So this child will have a a fully paid up policy by the time they're 25 years old, right? There's not too many people that can say that, or they're not. And you know, when you think about what parents and grandparents, especially grandparents, so we deal with a lot of grandparents that'll buy a product like this for their grandchildren. I have one of my clients who has 11 grandchildren. He's bought one in every single one of them. The last little guy is a year old. We just wrote his policy up. And so when he's 20 and change, he'll have a paid up policy that will have got some growth in it for sure. No, this
no medical, right?
No, that's.
Oh, I haven't got to that part yet. I haven't got to GPO yet. I haven't got there yet. This is just the base policy. We're going to talk about the GPO in a few minutes. So actually probably with the illustrations maybe. So what this does though is this kid here, he's 25 years old, he's got a fully paid up policy. That's first off. So his insurance is paid for. That's number one. But the other thing where this can be of value is the actual cash value that's within the policy, because it is a great complement to an RESP. So if parents are looking for ways to fund their kids' education, obviously you want to do the RESP to get the 20% matching, right, from the government. You want to get that. But there are certain things that an RESP is not going to cover, right? Anybody got an idea of some of the things an RESP might not cover?
RESP, anything outside of it.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Has that, like, if there is, the RESP is fully funded, and then kids already use that, they can take out the money from it.
Right, yes, that's one thing. If they've already sapped out the RESP, for sure. The other thing, though, is like you're saying, the RESP is really about the actual education stuff, so the tuition, maybe the books. One of the things that has come an issue for a lot of people is things like accommodation. If your child decides to go to Queen's University in Kingston, they're not living in a trunk, right? They need to live somewhere, and things like that. Yes, and so what a lot of folks will do is they'll do the RESP. That's where you draw your tuition money from, possibly books, things like that. Things that you can prove. Here you go. Here you go. Here's the receipt. If it were ever to be audited. But accommodation's not covered, and for most cases now at universities, how many years can a university student live in residence? You know,
1 year.
Just one.
Only one.
1 year. Most universities only have room for freshmen in their first year only, and then they boot them out. They've got to find somewhere shared accommodation somewhere else. Yeah, there's just not enough space, and so they do it for freshmen only. It's like a transition phase to get them to kind of be able to survive on their own for a year, and realize that they're going to experience what they call the freshman 15. And you know what that is? You gain 15 pounds the first year away from home because all you do is eat because mom isn't cooking you good food and you're eating junk. And so they call it the freshman 15. So my daughter is convinced, my youngest is convinced she's going to live with me and go to one of the universities in Waterloo so that she can avoid the freshman 15. She apparently thinks I'm still cooking for her, but
The company they accept the first year.
yes,
Rent with the fee.
yes.
Yeah, and then after that they have to.
Well, and so there is where you run into your issues, right? If it's collected with the fee, you're okay. But the other thing you run into is some universities do not have enough residencies even for all the freshmen. And I know I've experienced that with one of my friends. Neither of her kids could get into residency in their first year. It was just too full. So as soon as you are not,
How does the corporation
cannot
involve
use
work?
RESP.
You say anniversary,
And that's,
so
for some people right away, for some people that's year 2. Second year,
right?
you're on your own, you're paying rent,
Anniversary
you're
would
sharing
be the
a house with 5 other
10th
details.
year.
But this is where the funds within a whole life policy could be of use, because a policy loan can be taken, right, against the cash value within the policy to help cover that off. So this actually is just the same thing that I showed you on the last policy. This is just the 20 pay on this
Oh,
young
sorry.
man.
Can I just
Yeah,
ask, so now we're talking a 20-year pay,
This is a 20 pay on a
20
5-year-old.
pay
Yeah.
on a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So can they still use the policy loan even though the,
Because even when they stop paying, all the money that's still in there is
Yeah,
earning
I'll
dividend.
go through that.
And so the one thing that you will notice that's going to be slightly different is if somebody takes out a whole life and they pay it for life, it is going to have greater cash value, obviously, because they're still paying it. So the cash value won't be quite as extensive as it will be in the 20 pay, but it still has good growth with it, for sure. But yes, as long as there's cash value in there,
they can take a
loan,
policy?
yeah, for sure. This just shows you, whoa.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much the main thing to know, right? You know, use your contribution,
No, I
make
think-
it all higher than what you will be spending for your medical
Okay.
bills. And.
Okay, we're switching computers.
And you can
No,
increase only.
I think they're just.
What is that process though for increasing? Like,
Yes.
do we need to
Yes.
give like a 30-day notice, like a
And
form
you-
someone needs to fill? What would it be?
You want to check? You know, notice.
The only challenge that she has to
This is in the one.
Okay.
The advisor gets the notification. Right.
that doesn't
Go to the person.
Oh, no, that's fine. I always like.
Usually there's a chat
I'm fine with that.
doing it too.
They can be downloaded.
Okay, I'm gonna first of all I'm gonna mute.
I'll download this.
Okay.
while you're going.
Okay.
Hey guys, anybody on there? If you have a question, can you just put it in the chat?
So then they would have, the conversation would be between you and the client.
I know it's not coming up. Mute all. Here we go. Mute all. Yes. And I don't know where the chat is on this kind of computer, but I just asked them to ask on the chat.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sure. Okay. Is there a way I can continue for until you're?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize this.
Is that your?
Oh,
Yeah, like it just stopped all of a sudden. That's what you want? I can't tell. There's no. What's that?
We can do it after. I bet.
As long as I can see it there to follow it, I could, but it doesn't help you guys. There's no visual for you guys, which is kind of boring. We're very visual people, right? Everybody's a visual person. They like to be talked about. Right? Oh, something's coming up. It's not this, but something's coming up. Somebody's child.
oh, it's my granddaughter.
Oh, okay, you're on, I see what happened.
That's my granddaughter.
It's okay. We're back on. We're back on. There we go. Our commercial break is over. Alrighty, so what this just shows you is very similar to what I showed you on the Pay for Life version. Okay, it's very similar to what was on the Pay for Life version, and this is just showing you the internal rate of return on the death benefit comparison. So very similar to the slide I showed you a few back. Kind of dry, a little boring, but just to kind of give you an idea of what the internal rate of return is.
All your 20K is 100K or is it?
No, any, we're just using that for, no, so the minimum is $25,000. So to give you an example, they showed you like, you know, the 5-year-old kid for $100,000. You could look at that and go, yeah, it's a little high for a 5-year-old. You could do a 50, right? Like when my kids are younger, I did a 50 on them to get started. You can do it as low as a 25. The other thing that's really good about a 25 as well is if you're dealing with a young couple and most of their needs are term needs, like temporary needs, you can, you know, get them the term insurance that they need. But let's face it, permanent insurance is going to be cheaper the younger you are, right? And so if they may just say, well, like, you know, just $25,000 for now. The beauty of a whole life product is it's going to grow, right? It's going to grow over time. So that permanent portion of their insurance is going to increase over time.
Okay, ready to go.
We're ready to go? Okay, we're making some changes.
Hey everyone, we're gonna switch computers. So if you get kicked off, just log back in, okay? Thank you.
So we're changing this one? Yeah. Okay. Okay, are we supposed to eject it or something first? Eject it. Because I just kind of named it. No. Yeah, basically, don't pull it up. Okay, sorry. This is probably why I break things. Okay. Okay. This. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then your power cord. Okay, that one is charged. You know what? Everybody take a bathroom break. Yeah. I'm bad.
Which one is it?
That top.
First one?
Yeah.
We have our own slideshow.
I haven't named them, so I know who I did them for. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to our IT department about
If it were. Mute.
What slide were you on, Kelly?
So we're down to about the 20 pay stuff. I can find it, don't worry about it.
Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you.
We're still in Zoom. Yeah.
Oh, why is this? I'm not sure what that was about. Okay.
Okay, so welcome back. This is now showing you the 20 pay compare with the life pay, okay? So, because a lot of people ask me about that, well, you know, what's the difference in the cash surrender value if they decide to go with the 20 pay and if they decide to go with the pay for life? And so, as I mentioned, obviously the 20 pay is going to have a slightly lower cash value because they stop paying at 20 years, but a lot of people like that and are really happy to know they're never going to pay another premium again. So if you look at this, in the beginning, the cash surrender value at year 10 is going to be higher with the 20 pay, right? Because you're putting in higher premiums for those 20 years, right? So this is going to be higher, and same, the death benefits pretty much, if you ask me, the same. But then you get to year 20, and it's going to start to change as you go, because you put in 20 years of premiums, higher premiums, so your cash value is higher. Here it's higher but closing in. And then you get to about year 40, and then the 20 pay starts to not be quite as high in cash value as the pay for life, because this one's still paying, right? and then it continues this way, okay? Now, of course, still a decent cash value, right? And you don't have to pay premiums again. So that's not too bad, right? Whereas this one, if you're paying for life, it's going to continue to grow. The pay for life is probably, two schools of thought on that. You're going to get people that, in some situations, the 20K premium is just different enough that they can't afford it, so they'll go with the lower one. I always recommend that you look at both of them because at certain age groups, the 20K really isn't that much more than the pay for life. So I'm finding people in their 30s, 40s and stuff like that, it isn't all that much more money to get the 20K, and then you can just have it done, paid for, and never have to worry about it again, right? Another area where the pay for life may be of value to some people is if they want that longer term of being able to tax shelter money, like for a longer period of time, whereas in the reverse, a 20K allows them to tax shelter more money in the shorter term, right? Because you're putting in a slightly higher premium, right? Okay, make sense? Okay.
Can you repeat the last part?
On the 20K, so the 20K, so the 20K is a shorter period with more money being able to go in. So because they're able to put more premium in, so if they're looking to tax shelter more money, then the 20K is going to allow them to pay a higher premium than a life. So that's more money. So if they had, the premium between the two was say $5,000 a year versus 30, I'm making it up, literally, $3,500 a year, and they are already maxing out their RSPs and stuff like that, and they want to tax shelter money, then they maybe want to take the 20K because they can put $5,000 away tax shelter, because otherwise that money they're gonna pay tax. Yeah. Okay. Do we know?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but where do they log back into? That one or that one? Because they were told not to type their questions in the chat box. Sorry, you had a question though.
I was just gonna say, so pay for life?
Yes.
Constantly paying until you die.
Yes.
20K is
20 years, you're
20
done.
years, and that's it, right?
Yeah, you're done.
So is annual pay or every month?
You can do annual, you can do monthly, you do quarterly, you do semi-annuals. I believe what we've demonstrated here is annual. Everything we do for illustration purposes for a presentation like this, we show the annual. Yeah. Most people, as you know, most people pay their premiums monthly, right? Yeah. But we're just for this, we show it annually. Yeah. Some of the policies, like a child's policy, sometimes people will pay it annually because it is a little bit smaller, right? If they're just doing a $25,000 policy for a child, it could be $200 and some dollars a year, and they go, yeah, I'll pay that in one shot, right?
So he said we're using that laptop.
Oh, okay. Hi.
But I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll be able to see.
Well, yeah.
That is
Okay.
that is very
Okay. So this just actually gives you an idea of the whole life par fund that is used. So I mentioned that, we are participating type product. This is the par fund, or participating fund. So this is how the growth occurs within the policy. Okay, so the policy produces, and it grows in two ways. Number one, the policy produces dividends. And so what those dividends do in a lot of cases is they are used to buy paid up additions, so more insurance. And then the other thing is the actual fund of the policy is invested in the whole life par fund. And this is how our par fund is invested. Okay, and we use investment companies that do that. Right now, our dividend rate is credited at 6.3%. The big difference between, so who knows like the big difference between, say, a dividend fund or a par fund and say maybe what a universal life is invested in? You know what the difference is?
Well, you manage the UL. The client manages
Yeah,
the
they have to,
UL,
yes.
and the whole life is managed.
Yeah, so that's one of the differences, is that the UL, it has to be more managed because it's almost like a segregated fund, right? The stuff that's in there mirrors what goes on in the market. And the dividend fund is how the company is investing their own money. So obviously we're very concerned about that. We want to know how we're investing our own money and that it's doing well. The other difference is dividend funds are very static. They tend to have a very straight line when you look at, so when you look at, I mean, have you ever looked at those index charts and you see them all over the place with investments? That's more what you're going to get with like a universal life policy. Because it's invested in something that mirrors the actual stock exchange, the market, it's going to go up and it's going to go down. It's going to do this, right? It's going to have low years, high years, low months, high months. It's going to do a lot of this depending on what it's invested in. In this situation with a dividend fund, dividend funds don't do that. You know, the dividend fund gets looked at in April and goes, okay, so are we making a change to our dividend rate? And a lot of times the answer is no, because it's doing what we want it to do. So there's a considerably less fluctuation with the dividend fund. In fact, there's tiny fluctuation with the dividend fund. It's not, it's not whoosh with one of those, because then we have a huge problem, because that's all our money too that the company's invested, right? So that is, yeah, go ahead.
The 6.3, is that a guaranteed rate?
No, dividend rates are never guaranteed anyway. No. So
That's
like
just with the norm.
Yeah. So every company annually will review their dividend rate to see what it's doing, to see
So the
how.
last 20 years, it's around that average?
Well, the product's only been around a year, but the investors that we use, they've been having good returns. So we went to well-reputed investment companies. I'll show you actually, go to that slide. Here we are. So when we were looking at who we wanted to help manage our par fund, we looked at companies with a lot of experience to do that. We partnered with Fiera Capital and with Jaroslawski, Fraser, and Northleaf, and those are three of the ones that we partnered with. So we looked at people that had a lot of background and a lot of experience in doing this type of thing. And also, as you can imagine, because of the type of company we are, we also look for people that were using, good investments, not risky type investments, not investments that we would find morally questionable or anything like that. I'm not sure why on this computer, this screen comes up black. See if I hit it one more time. No, it doesn't. Never mind. Oh, and there it's. I don't know why I did that before too. So the next product, and does anybody, before I jump ahead, does anybody else have any other questions with respect to the whole life? And keep in mind, I am going to run some illustrations for you so you can actually see, and you might have more questions when I do that part of it instead. Okay. So this is talking about our Term 100 product. So you remember back a little while ago, I said I like to think we have the best of both worlds when it comes to permanent insurance. People who want the growth can get a whole life product. People who don't can get a Term 100 product, right? And it literally is, a Term 100 is literally a plan that looks like a term plan because it has no growth in it whatsoever, but it's just permanent, right? So it is a cheaper way to get a permanent type product. Now, when you look at these types of the products that are out there, nobody else offers a pure Term to 100 product anymore, other than us. It's just, it used to be a thing years ago. Nobody offers it anymore. What the other carriers do is they have a universal life product, and they all have ULs that either have two different types of insurance cost structures. One is like a YRT, where it's going up every year, and then these ones, they also have a level cost of insurance. So all they're really doing is taking a Term 100 and throwing it inside of a universal life product, right? With the hopes that then the clients might want to put a little extra in and try to take advantage of some of that growth opportunity that they might get, if they invest it properly. There'll be some MERs involved in that, so a few expenses and stuff like that. Ours is just a straight Term 100. No bells, whistles. It's a straight Term 100 for people that are looking for really low cost permanent insurance. So this kind of just shows you, the pricing. Again, nothing too, radical as far as extreme differences on the pricing. The one thing, though, that is very different about our Term to 100 product is we have a reduced paid up feature on it. And what that means is from years 20 onward, if the client, and I'll show the illustration later, if the client were to come to you at year 20 and say, Michelle, I don't need this product anymore, I originally thought I needed $250,000 when I bought it, but you know, now I'm 60 years old. I don't need all of that anymore, and I really don't feel like paying the premium. You get to go back to that client and say, that's great. You can start paying today. However, you're going to have a reduced paid up insurance amount of $84,000. So never pay another dime, and you still have $84,000 of that benefit available to you whenever you pass, okay? And then I've just shown the scenario again at different, you know, so same face amount all the time, just different ages we're showing it at. And these are all showing year 20 duration. If the client said the same thing to you at year 25, the only difference is this reduced paid up would be higher. So obviously the longer they pay the premiums into the plan, that reduced paid up is higher. And I'll actually run an illustration in a couple minutes that actually shows it to you, because it shows it right on the illustration to the client, so they will know what the reduced paid up is at any given year.
Is there a minimum when they have to? When they can do that
They just can't do it before year 20.
before you're.
Yeah, it has to start at year 20. Yeah,
So this
20 and higher.
in this type of policy, you wouldn't be the minimum, you're
No.
not allowed to put anything in.
No, this is for people that want just a bare bones, permanent policy, don't care about growth. You know, you get people like that, but then just as many people like that, there's those on the flip side that say, I don't want to pay for something, you know, that much money for something for that long time and not have anything in return, right? So, you know,
So your
everybody's different.
T100 is really a UL and T100.
No, ours is just a T100. These ones are ULs.
Okay.
Ours is just a T100.
Or yours is just.
Just a T100. No.
Look at the thing on the
Yeah,
top.
no, you don't. So with all of these things, they would have to actually make sure they do an investor profile on the client to make sure that they're investing. Because even if they're not putting in much over and above the cost of insurance, you still have to indicate investment options, and you still have to do the investor profile. This one, there is no investment portion whatsoever. It's just a straight T100. So you don't have to do the profile unless you're doing actual investments for the clients, right? And that's the other side of it too, is you could still get clients that maybe they don't want the dividend fund. Maybe they want to just, you know, take their chances with their investments separately. You sell them a term to 100 and you work separately with them on their investments into a TFSA, into their RSPs, into some non-registered stuff, and you manage it through, you know, segregated funds or whatever.
Yeah, you just compare the two.
Yeah, it's just doing the compare. Just the difference being we have this feature right here that nobody else has. With a UL policy, I have a lot of experience with UL policies from my previous 2 employers. You stop paying a UL and you'll eventually just tank, and that's it. It's just gonna, you know, eventually the policy fund runs out and it's gone. Questions before we do illustration? Okay, so I have kind of a list of things that I'm going to go through. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to, you know, the last slide's just who's your point of contact, blah, blah, blah. I'm your point of contact. And I have cards if anybody needs one at the end. We're going to...
We have a scenario.
Yes, yeah, we were chatting about that too. So maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of go through what I had here and then we'll do that. Assuming I actually didn't lose my little... Here it is. There we go. Okay, so let's get rid of this first. Actually, I don't know. It hasn't been accredited yet. I've left it with Colin. The challenge we may have with that is that a lot of it is very product specific, and we often get pushed back on that pretty hard when you're trying to get stuff accredited. More salesy and industry and, you know, conceptual. They see it as more just promoting ourselves versus education. Okay, now I just need to try to find the illustrations. If anybody sees the words FaithLife on here, yell, because I don't see it. Daniel just downloaded the FaithLife illustrations. Yeah. Right there. Point on the big screen. Too closer to me. Oh, right here?
No, that's not.
That's not it.
It's under Experior and software. Folder that says
Oh, you
Experior.
downloaded already?
I thought you did.
I have a
Oh,
software.
okay. Okay. Just, okay, here. I'm gonna let you open it.
Some Experior. It's all over the place. Experior folder. Okay, let me do it this way.
Some of them are on top of each other.
Yeah.
Blame Daniel, he touched it.
Experior Financial Group software. Experior Group software. Experior Group FaithLife.
Starting to snow yet up there? Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so we'll start with the easy stuff. We'll start with the term illustrations and we'll work our way up. Sound good? So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do a 10-year term illustration. So when you get to this page right here, sometimes people call and say, well, it doesn't matter what I do. I keep typing on this coverage button. It won't let me do anything. What do you have to do to make it go past here? Right, you have to unclick this because it's asking you, it's basically saying, please do not submit an application for any applicant positive for any of the following. So it's almost like it's pre-screening, right? Yeah. So you have to make sure none of this stuff applies. And then if it doesn't, you unclick that, then you can start doing your illustration. So then you click on the coverage button and you start typing in the owner name. Now, when the owner name gets filled in, it's automatically going to assume the owner and the life insured are the same person. If they aren't, you then tab down to here and you can change the life insured's name. Just back it out and change it, okay? So we're just gonna look at Bob Smith. He's 35. He's a male non-smoker. He is looking for $250,000 of coverage. Now, you notice the payment mode says annually. If you tab over, once you get over there, as soon as you just type, you can either do the drop down or I just type M and it starts calculating monthly. But the other thing you start to see over here, over by the premium side, remember when I said if you just want to quickly check something? Come on, don't do that. It puts it in that little box. I'm not really sure why that just happened. There we go. So it puts it in this little box, right? So you know, if you're just running some numbers quick and didn't want to do a full illustration, you can do it right there. So that tells you that for a $250,000 policy, 10-year term policy with waiver of premium. So waiver of premium is always the default on there. If you don't want it, you unclick it, okay? It will always be on there. Otherwise, that the price would be $17.55 a month. Now, the one thing, because I did a death benefit of $250,000, is this box is now available. Now, if I had done, I'll show you quick. If I had said 200,000, I'm going to show you two things by doing this. If I tab over to 200 and just do 200,000, what happens is that is no longer available because we don't offer preferred rates under 250. As soon as you hit 250, preferred rates are an option. The other thing that happens, and I point this out for a reason, is insurance pricing is banded. It's like buying in bulk. So we have the first significant price band occurs at $250,000. So you're buying more units, cheaper. So it's cheaper to buy $250,000 of coverage than it is to buy $200,000 of coverage. Okay, so keep that in mind whenever somebody's asking for 200,000 or 220, or you know what I mean? Always check the 250 amount because that's a new price band and chances are it's cheaper. And in this case, it is definitely cheaper. To be honest with you, I have yet to run a scenario with us where the 250 isn't cheaper than the 200. So it is well worth it. I'm just going to check too on our, well, yeah, so it's like $3 cheaper a month. The other thing I'm just going to double check is our new underwriting requirements, because once upon a time, the big thing for a lot of people, why they went with 200 instead of 250 was because of underwriting requirements, right? They didn't want to have to maybe go for like a needle or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they don't like fluids being drawn. So let's just see what our new standards are. Yeah, so it is still the same. So that's the only thing. From ages 16 to 55, For under 250, so up to 249,000, we only require the telephone interview. Once you hit 250, we do need the blood, urine, and vitals, okay? So sometimes that's why you'll get people that they'll go, well, they may be phobic of needles, right? And they'll say, well, I'll just take 240 instead. And it's gonna be more money, but all they have to do is a telephone interview, right?
So
What's the age?
So 249.
That's, yeah, the 249, yep, yeah. That's ages 16 to 55 on that.
You just type in 249 also.
Yeah, sure. It's gonna be more than 1755. Because it's below the band.
What is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, so two things have happened here, and this is part of why you hit a pricing band at 250 though. I was just making sure it was still the same as it used to be. Part of why you hit a pricing band at 250. Why do you think 250 is a magic number?
Because now they're taking the
Yeah.
paramedic.
Yes. Now we're taking more evidence, so we're reducing our risk. So when somebody only goes through a telephone interview process, there's still an element of higher level of risk to us because we haven't fully, we're just going based on solely on the customer's word. And to the best of their knowledge as well, right? Like I'm sure you guys have all heard stories about people that find out about conditions during the underwriting process. It can happen. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. So the difference for us, obviously, and any insurance company, is preferred rates are offered at 250 because we're doing the paramedical stuff, but also we offer lower prices because we're taking in more evidence to determine that, right? So that is one of the things I wanted to show you. The other thing, we're going to go back and do the 250. Is as soon as you do 250 or higher, the client becomes eligible for preferred rates. Now, one of the things I always advise everybody is always go out to customers talking about the standard rate, because preferred rates means they are above average healthy. Ultra preferred rates mean they are really healthy. And once upon a time, about 10 years ago, a lot of carriers got into the habit of just posting their preferred rates, the cheapest rate they had. But what was happening was only 5% of the population could qualify for those rates. Well, if you did that to your customer, how happy are they going to be with you when you got to go back and go, you didn't qualify for it? You could have a conversation with somebody to say, this is the standard rate. This is how we're going to write up the policy. If you think they're healthy, you could say, having said that, on the off chance that you are healthier than average, you have a couple of things that could happen. The offer that comes with the CAT could be for preferred rates. At this amount, not a huge difference. It's $17 a month. I mean, that barely covers the administration cost. Or in some cases, like my dear sister, she qualified for ultra preferred rates, and ultra preferred brings it down a little more. So $15 instead of the $17.55. So like I said, always show them the standard rate, but sometimes you're dealing with people that might be really athletic or whatever, and you can have that conversation with them, right?
So waiver of premium and what's with FaithLife?
Sorry, what was that?
Waiver of premium with the FaithLife?
Yes.
Like,
so the waiver of premium means that if they cannot work, it's typically waiver of premium as any job. Whereas, so it's not the same as disability insurance. Some of it is specific to your own job. Waiver of premium is any job. You can't work, so your premiums are waived as long as you're disabled during that time.
that you need a medical note for that?
Yes, you will. You will have to,
For full-time people or in self-employed?
Yes, it would be for self-employed as well, because really what they're going to base it on is they're going to base it on the doctor information. So the difference between this and say disability, an actual disability insurance policy, is disability insurance policy underwrites also according to your occupation class. So they already know what type of occupation you do. Here, yeah, we do ask during the insurance process, like, what do they do for a living, blah, 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 because, we want to, if you write down, skydiver, it might go, oh, hang on a minute. but it's based on the medical, the waiver of premium stuff. It's based on the medical. And that's why it's also based on any job. So somebody who can no longer who has severe carpal tunnel syndrome can't maybe be an auto mechanic anymore, but they can still do another job. So they wouldn't necessarily qualify. Somebody who has a fairly serious heart condition, depending on the heart condition, you could actually, so my stepfather, by his mid-50s, he was pretty much disabled because of horrible heart, horrible. And he was on waiver of premium, yeah. So yeah, so yeah.
So there's no, you can't change that. So that's just the way the policy's written.
That's how the policy's written, right? Yeah, no, there's nothing to do to change that. It's just that we waive the premiums and we cover the premiums during that time. Now, some people say, well, what does it cost without waiver of premium? Waiver of premium doesn't cost a whole lot of money. So it's a couple bucks a month, less than $2 a month for a waiver of premium. So depending on the age of your client, it's worthwhile. It's only available to people that are 60 or younger. As soon as you hit 60, it's not available simply because the benefit also expires at age 65. Okay, and you'll see that when we do the full illustration. The actual cost of that benefit falls off too because the benefit is then gone because normal working age is age 65, right? Now, the other thing, a couple of other things I wanted to show you in here. This will show you quickly at a glance what medical the client has to do, what the medical requirements are going to be for the client. So it does tell you telephone interview, blood chemistry, urine build, blood pressure. That means they're going to see the nurse. She's going to draw blood. They're going to do a urine sample. She's going to, take their blood pressure and weigh them, right? And then they'll do a telephone interview.
They already take all the blood and every urine and all that, but what they doing in telephone interview?
So the telephone interview, I don't have them with me, but I have left a stack of brochures here. I left them with Daniel, I think, before. The telephone interview really is all of the questions. So some of the other companies you may have used have a whole bunch of medical questions listed on their application. We don't have any of those on our application. We use Dynacare to do that for us. So instead of you having to say to the client, when was the last time you went to see your doctor? What medications are you on? Have you ever had any type of breathing misfunction, asthma, blah, all the big long words? We don't have the advisors do any of that. You just do the application. It's really the personal information, the address, what they're applying for, all of that kind of stuff. And then you actually can leave them with a copy of the brochure that says you're going to get a phone call from Dynacare. They're going to schedule a time with you to do a telephone interview. It takes about 25 minutes. Here is the brochure that outlines exactly all of the questions you will be asked. Those questions are asked in the exact order that they are in the brochure and exactly the way they are in the brochure. And I know that because as soon as I went to work for FaithLife, I wrote a policy on myself so I could find out to make sure. It's a good process because it does two things. It takes you out of the mix of having to ask that person. Like sometimes you kind of feel a little awkward asking certain questions, right? Depending on the person. The other thing that it does is if you can leave the brochure with the client, it helps them prepare for it. Because if you ask somebody on the spot, when was the last time you saw your doctor? How many people struggle to remember exactly when they saw the doctor and what it was for, right? It gets tough, right? You're like, ooh. So this gives them time to actually check their phone, like go through their calendar and figure out when they did, what they went for. Also medications. If they're on medications, they can have them all lined up or take pictures of the labels or whatever so that they can answer the questions quickly and knowledgeably versus fumbling. Saves a lot of your time too, really.
Because sometimes some of the insurance companies, they don't do that telephone interview, but when the nurses come to take
they ask the nurse to do it. So, and there's a couple of schools of thought on that as well. It depends. Some nurses are great at it, and some, keep in mind, they're nurses. They don't work insurance. So Dynacare, they work for the insurance companies. We pay them to do this service. I've actually had situations, or I've had reps where the nurse basically talked them out of the insurance. I've even had situations like that where so it just, what's that? Whose laptop is it?
No, it's not mine.
Is it on here? Okay, I might need somebody to come in. Oh, here, this mute button?
Yeah.
Example product.
Okay.
Go to manage participant.
Holy, like for all we know, they're going to the bathroom or something. Sorry. Okay, scared of that. Okay, so this shows you just quickly at a glance that the other thing that,
Sorry, can I ask a question?
yeah, absolutely.
You have standard written there, but isn't it only after you do the urine test and everything if you qualify for preferred?
Yes.
Then you'll know if you qualify for as a preferred or else.
Yes, yeah, so that's why I always only go out with standard rates. Because if you show preferred or ultra preferred, you don't know if they're going to qualify for that. You don't even know if they're going to qualify for standard. But standard is the offering that every company goes out with. This is the standard offering. Policy could come back. We could come back and say, based on the information, you know, your blood work, your blood pressure was fantastic. You know, your weight's great. We're going to offer you preferred rates. On the flip side, your sugar count is a little high, or you're a little short for your weight. You know, they might, you know, it could also be a little bit of a rating, right? For sure. Yes. Yeah, for sure. It is. It is. And so that's why I always say go out with standard rates for sure.
Can you put preferred rate and go to the medical?
It won't. It shouldn't change it because it's still based on blood urine. Like when my sister did it, she still based it on. Yeah, it's all exactly the same. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it won't change it because at 250, that's all we're going to take. So the other thing, just quickly, I wanted to show you is in the event you were to go out with this and you went through the underwriting process and somebody, the underwriter got back to you and said, Michelle, thank you for your application for client so-and-so, for client Bob Smith, based on such and such, which they won't give you a ton of detail because they can't because of privacy, but based on our underwriting evidence, we are prepared to make the client an offer based on a rating of 150%. You're going, okay, what does that mean to the cost? All you do is reload the illustration, go up to this where it says underwriting, click on that, go to here, change that to one, or whatever the offer, whatever it is, and change it to 150, and click on accept rating, let it do its magic, calculate, and that tells you what it is. So based on 150, that the policy now $25 a month, and it says right on their policy is rated. So if you were to move on to try to do other illustrations and you hadn't taken that off, it's still going to say this policy is rated until you go back to underwriting and take that off. Okay. Okay. Now the last thing I want to show you on this is a comparison, because how many times are you in a situation where the client can't decide between a 10-year term and a 20-year term, right? They're like, well, maybe the 20-year, but it's kind of expensive. And you're like, if you could only just quickly explain to them, you know, how much they're going to put out in the 10-year long term, if they actually need it for longer than that. So what you do then is when you go to run the report, you have the option of view all years, pretty straightforward. View selected years, it'll do it a little shorter. With term plans, that's kind of good because there's no cash value anyways. Or view all years with the compare. And so you click on that. It takes a little bit longer to calculate because it's doing an actual comparison of the 10 and 20 year. And this guy is 35, so it'll throw a 30-year in there as well. The 30-year term maximum issue age, while this is calculating, I'll just tell you, is 50 because term policies expire at age 80, right? Okay, so let's get rid of that. It's taking its minute. Come on. There we go. So if you go through the illustration, it's just like a standard looking illustration, right? All looks the same. Here it just breaks down, you know, what the insurance amount is, the base annual premium, the waiver of premium cost, the total cost, and then the monthly cost. Here it just gives you every single year. So you know that at year 11, the premium goes annually from $211 to $1,015, like all term 10s, it jumps up. What this does for you is you're able to show the client the actual comparison, okay? And so I actually did this for a client last night to show him, you know, you guys have a 10-year term now. He's rewriting his 10-year term because what's happening this month, the premium's jumping up. And so I did this and I said, please take a look at page 6 or 7, whatever it was. This is actually going to show you the difference between taking the 10-year term and the 20-year term. So in this situation, obviously in years 1 to 10, you're going to pay less premium, right? It's going to be less premium for sure. And what you really want to draw their attention to, though, is this total premiums paid, that middle section right here, okay? Because what it shows is, yes, in the first 10 years, you'd pay more money for a 20-year term. Like you're paying almost like $900 more. The difference is that already by year 15, only 5 years into the second term, if you were doing a term 10, you would have saved money by going with the term 20. You would have saved money already. And then obviously year 20, you're almost half. You're about half of what you would have spent going with the T10 had it renewed. And of course, a lot of people are like, well, you know what, I'll do the T10 for now. I'll just reapply at year 11, which with this couple, hopefully that I'm dealing with, hopefully that strategy works out okay for them right now. They're 42 years old, 42 and 43, but 10 years from now, they're 52 and 53, right? So it could get harder over time. So actually the particular couple I'm referring to, he actually texted me just as I was getting here and he said, yeah, we're going to go with the 20-year this time. So this does enable you to show your clients the options. And actually, without trying to sit there with a calculator and an abacus and everything else, you can just sit there and quickly show them this page and just show them the total outlay between the different plans and help them make their decision. So one thing I always tell people, if it is really a need, buy a 10-year plan if it's a 10-year need, or if you know you're converting most of it within that 10-year term period. If you're not going to do that, and you know, like for example, it's a mortgage. It's a young couple, they've bought a mortgage. Well, they're not getting a 10-year mortgage, are they? They're at least looking at a 20-year mortgage, possibly a 25, and then the 30-year term might be a better option for them. But, reality of it is that a 20-year is going to save them so much more money, right? And it is, even if for a young couple, I just do the mortgage scenario, if they had a 25-year mortgage, if you look at the year 25 line and look at the total outlay, like by this point, these two have kind of come close together. It's under the 25, but look at the difference if you bought a 30-year term to cover a mortgage, right? Like a total of 11,400 put out versus 21. That's an extra 10 grand they could have put against their mortgage, right? Or whatever, right? So wanted to show you that feature. That's kind of it for term illustrations. I now want to go on to the term to 100 illustration, and then we'll get into the whole life. Sound good?
Are all of those plans all convertible?
Yes. So all of our term plans, the 10, 20, and 30-year term plans are all convertible to up to age 70, and then they expire at age 80. No medical. No, it's no medical. So yes, when they convert, it will be at whatever age and product is available at the time, right? Because the product shelf we have today may not be the same product. So if it's a 30-year-old buying it and they decide they don't convert until they're 65, we're not likely to have the exact same products and prices in 35 years as we do today. And obviously they're more risk down the road as well. So again, there's something to be said for buying permanent insurance when you're younger, because it's never going to be that cheap again, likely, right? Okay, so that is that. So now we're going to look at the term to 100. You probably have to get rid of that. There we go. So same thing, you have to get rid of this. Go to here. we'll do the same thing, same gentleman, just to do this one quickly. And he could do another, we'll do 250 again, pay it monthly. I think I hit the M, yeah. No, 2 M's. There we go. So now we're dealing in permanent insurance. Okay, so obviously a lot more money. You know, 250,000 is fairly high for permanent insurance, but I want to just show you the reduced paid up feature. But maybe what I'll do is I'll drop this down to 150. Even that's high for a lot of people. Okay. So in this situation, then you want to do the view all years. So similar idea. What's different about this then is this is where that reduced paid up feature comes into play that I talked about. So you see that for years 1 to 20, the face amount is $150,000. Then at year 20, all of a sudden, they have a reduced paid up amount. And what that means is if they decide at year 20, they're no longer going to pay premiums, that $1,400 a year or $117, I think it was a month. If they stop paying at year 20, they now have a reduced paid up policy with a death benefit of $46,546. Okay. It increases every year based on when they actually cancel it. Okay. So obviously the more money you put into it, the higher the face amount. So they could say at year 30, when they're 65 years old, this client's 65 years old, he may say, I don't want to pay the premium anymore. Now, just a quick note, you'll see the premium drop there. That's the waiver of premium dropping off. Okay. But they may say at that stage, I'm retired now, I don't want to keep paying premiums and I don't really need that much insurance. They stop paying. They have reduced paid up insurance of $69,000 and $487 for the rest of their life. So wherever they stop paying, that's the amount. Okay, it doesn't mean the amount keeps increasing after they stop paying. It means that if that's the year they stop at, that's the amount of coverage they have for the rest of their life. Okay, so kind of a cool feature. That is not offered with most insurance plans, but it is a great thing to have, you know, for people that, especially people that are a little uncertain or whatever. It is sometimes a good feature. You're struggling with somebody, you think they really should be getting permanent insurance. You can't sell them a whole life because they're just like, there's no way they'll pay for it. This is a great feature to show them and say, you know what, if you decide in 20 years, you don't no longer need this much insurance. You stop paying and you've got a reduced paid up policy. If nothing else, it's going to cover the cost of your funeral or whatever, right? Okay. And lastly, I'm looking, checking for snow. Well, if you check the hourly, it's supposed to start soon. Yes. So we're going to take a look at the whole life policy first, the regular whole life. So we'll take off that. We'll go over here and we'll just use the same name, but we're going to do this guy a little younger. So we're going to do a 20-year-old. Okay. Have I decided? Yeah. I'm going to do a 20-year-old male non-smoker. We're going to do a face amount of 150. Getting enough zeros. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do on here is we're going to add the guaranteed purchase option to it, okay? So you click on the guaranteed purchase option, and you can get a guaranteed purchase option up to an additional $50,000. So we'll put on $50,000. Okay, so what that means is if the client purchased this policy today, it has $100,000 of death benefit, okay? Because they've added on the guaranteed purchase option for $50,000, that means every 5 years between 20 and, now this guy, he is 20, so his first option won't be till he's 25, but every 5 years between 20, so 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40, they have an option where they can exercise that $50,000 option to apply for, sorry, to get more insurance without medical evidence. Okay, so it is based on whatever is available at the time and the price at that age, but there's no medical evidence needed whatsoever. So they don't have to. So it's similar to a conversion, and they can exercise it every 5 years. So that means at 25, he could add on 50,000. He's now at 150. At 30, he adds another 50. He's now up to 200, etc. So he can add $50,000 each time. If you miss a guaranteed purchase option, so if he doesn't take it at 25, once he passes it, it's gone. Okay, he has to wait till he's 30. There's a couple of things that allow you to apply for the GPO sooner. That is the birth of a child, marriage, things like that. All you're doing though is exercising the next option earlier. You're not getting an additional one, you're just exercising it. So if he got married at 33, he could exercise the 35 option earlier is all it means. At 40, right,
So the price
correct.
when you add in the 50, is the price will go up for premium?
When you add the 50, yes, it will be whatever is available, because he's basically buying another $50,000 policy.
It's just an insurability.
Yes, there's just no underwriting. So it's great for people. So I always put this on a kid's policy. My kids have it. Because no. It gives them the right to buy another $50,000 with no medical evidence 5 years down the road. And then again, another 5 years and another 5 years.
So that would change.
Yes, yeah, and likely what they'll wind up doing is just buying another policy for $50,000 that'll get added to it, because often policy types can change. Right, yeah, benefits, no medical.
So it's a separate policy also.
Typically it will be, because, I mean, otherwise we'd have to guarantee that we're still selling this in 5 years. We don't know, because like pricing changes, all kinds of, you just don't know anymore. It's the same as expecting the exact same model of car 5 years down the road, right? Might have the same name, but it looks entirely different or whatever. It is great for kids, fantastic for kids. I have it on my kids, because you don't know what's going to happen in people's health. It is a great thing for people. Like, if you buy, like somebody buys it on their 2-year-old child, I mean, I wish I'd known about it when my oldest was that young, and I had done it, because she's now much harder to insure than she was when she was little.
So would this
So-
be cheaper than anybody that does the medical?
Not necessarily. So they have the option. They could, well, no, actually, no. It'll be whatever's available at the time. So no, it'll be the same as what's available at the time. Price-wise, the difference is, if they're uninsurable or know they'd be rated now, doesn't matter. They bought their insurability. For an extra $3 a month, I think it was, they bought their insurability already. And they didn't just buy their insurability for $50,000. They bought their insurability. This guy, he gets to exercise it at 25, 30, 35, 40. So he gets to exercise it 4 times. So he actually has bought 200,000 insurability for an additional 200,000 of coverage for $3. I think it was $3. Were we at 117 before I hit that? Okay. So for $3 a month, he has bought the right to get $200,000 more insurance without doing any medical whatsoever. And he's going to pay the same price as the guy that comes in on the street at that same day, and he'll pay the same price, but that guy's got to go through all the medical and everything, and prove that he, is a standard risk to get that.
So this is better to get than $300,000 face amount.
If he doesn't need 300,000, it's better. If they need 300 now, then no, obviously you do the 300. I mean, what are we doing? We're doing a 20-year-old. If a 20-year-old needs $300,000 of permanent insurance, that's fairly high. A lot of people most people need a good combination of term and permanent. Okay, I turned them off. Why are they noisy again?
Because they can unmute themselves individually.
Oh, so do I need to do that again then? Manage participants. Okay. It sounds like somebody's unwrapping a candy or something.
So this particular policy.
Yes.
Saying, not just for, but this
Right.
policy will be good for a child.
Yes. Yep.
So, you mentioned it.
Yeah, and I'm also going to do, and I'll do that, and then I'm going to do a couple things before I do that, because I'm going to do child policies on this version and the 20 pay. Okay? Just really.
You guys mute yourselves.
Okay, if you're on the line, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah, I know. Okay. Okay. Noisy group. Okay, so a couple other things I wanted to show you on here. What else? What else? What else? What else? Well, let's just look at the actual illustration so you can see it first. We'll do it this way. You can do the you do two things. You just do a view all years. It's going to show the client all the years, you know, the growth in it and that. I did view all years with the internal rate of return. And that was similar to what I was talking to you about before. You know, sometimes a client saying to you, well, I could just get, you know, a regular plan, no cash value, and invest the difference. This is where you kind of show them, this is kind of how that would look, because, you know, it's taxed, you need twice as much return. So this first is just your regular plan, your basic plan for $100,000. The annual premium is $1,253. The waiver of premium is $26 a year, and the guaranteed purchase option is $59 a year. That brings it to $1,338 a year for a total of $120.42 a month. Okay. Now, this is showing what the policy looks like based on the current dividend scale. So that's the 6.3%. When you look at the illustration, you're going to have your annualized premium. So even though they pay monthly, it's always going to show you annualized premium. It's going to show you cash value. So there's not a lot of growth at the beginning because they haven't earned a ton yet. The death benefit over here. And these are the values that are guaranteed. Okay. So there's a level of guaranteed cash values. Okay. Then over here are what we call the non-guaranteed cash values. So that's the things like the annual dividend. So obviously we can't predict every single year what the dividend's going to pay, but what this shows you is the annual dividend amount and then the cash value that's available. So really you are adding up this and the dividend to get your cash value, okay? Then what it also shows you is the total death benefit that's available. So the cash value is not going to be, so the total death benefit isn't the same as the death benefit plus the cash value, because there's one more thing that's always added in, paid up additions, right? That's what they're using their dividends for, is to buy paid up additions. So in addition to just the cash value, the policy is buying paid up additions to increase their insurance coverage. So you'll see the death benefit grows over time, right? So this guy was 20. By the time he's 54, his death benefit is projected to be $310,000. That's the cash value plus the paid up additions that have been purchased. And that shows you that all the way. Oh, I forget this always goes this way. Okay, then it will continue showing that all the way up to, yes.
Cash value on the guaranteed side.
Yep.
Is that based on the dividend scale?
No, this is based on the dividend scale. This is based on the cash values that we will guarantee. We outright will guarantee it. So either way, it's going to, that's the guaranteed value regardless of return.
Okay, so the total cash value.
Total cash value is there's a portion of, I got my glasses on, I'm trying to explain it and I can't see it.
Explain this to the client when they always
Yeah.
ask about
Okay, so the difference is there is a minimum level of cash value that we will guarantee, irrespective of whatever we get return we get. And that is what is listed under guaranteed values, cash value, right here. Okay, over here, what we have is the projected annual dividend, currently based at 6.3%. This and this, okay, bring out, start to get English. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. This is where you start getting into your total cash value. By this point, you've got your dividend, your paid up additions.
So that total cash value, what is that comprised of?
The total cash value is comprised at this point is comprised of not as guaranteed cash values, annual dividends, as well as cash values from the paid up additions. Yes, and so you don't see the cash values from the paid up additions on here though? Yeah, but that's what it is there.
So it's a cash value annual dividend.
Yeah.
Cash value is one that you always guarantee.
Yes, that's all. We will always guarantee a minimum cash value
And
for sure.
annual dividends. give me a
Yep.
second. Annual dividends.
Based on the
is
6.3.
6.3
Mhm.
dividend scale, that's non-guaranteed, but it's
Right.
actually also about 6.3 ballpark.
Yep.
And the total cash value is the cash value and the dividend, plus you paid up the
Additions.
addition cash value.
Yes, because they've started buying paid up additions fairly early, because that's their dividend option on this version of the illustration. That's the
And-
dividend
and
option.
Also, the debt benefit is standard all the way through, and
Yep.
the last total debt benefit
Mhm.
is paid up addition. that
Yes.
That increases your debt benefit.
Yes, and then also it does have some cash values added in there as well.
I got it.
Yes, okay, yes, Michelle.
Your paid up additions.
Yep.
Can you get that from your dividends, or is that something that you have to, you can pay?
So it is the dividends are being used to buy paid up additions. And when we go back to the actual input screen at the beginning, I'll show you in a minute where you select that option. It's the default. It is the default whenever you run a whole life policy, because that's why most people buy a whole life policy. They want paid up additions.
Right.
They want that increasing factor.
Do you have the option of putting more money to purchase paid up additions?
No, you'd have to increase your face amount, because the one thing is this is illustrated to ensure that it stays on side with the MTAR limits that the CRA has outlined. If you try to put more money in, it's going to run offside. It's going to be a non-sheltered policy, and it'll be tax bill and blah, blah, blah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's this part of it. The other thing that we always do with an illustration is we always show an adverse scenario. So what happens if the 6.3 dividend isn't what paid out in the end? So then we show it based on 75% of the current dividend scale. That's always the default. What's up?
All right, just making sure the USB stick did not go with the other person's computer.
It's right there.
Perfect. She has it. Thanks, Joanne. Thanks, Kelly.
What? Oh yeah, because
We switched the other.
yes, the presentation was still on the stick. Yeah.
Didn't want
Yeah.
to leave with it.
Okay. So this just shows you all the same stuff, just assuming that instead of 6.3%, you only earn 75% of 6.3, which if I were a mathematician, I'd tell you what that is, but it's still, and it's the same thing. If you've ever seen a universal life illustration, they also have to do the same thing. They always have to show you the adverse scenario. It is a requirement that we do this. So this just shows you if it wasn't quite 6.3%, what it would be. Okay, still good cash value growth in there, and the dividends are still there. It's still purchasing paid up additions and stuff like that. It's just not doing it as rapidly. The growth isn't going to be quite as high. Okay, so I think at 54, didn't he have 300 and something on the other scenario? Here he's at 243. Okay.
Those dividends, I'm so sorry, I have a few questions. Those dividends, you can take them out as cash value?
No.
You can't take them
No,
out?
you can't take them out. You can do a policy loan against them. If you take them out, you're collapsing the plan. So cash values, there are people, they will reach a certain point in the plan, and they might get to 65 and say, there's enough value in there now, but that with everything else I have, I'm going to cash it in and take the cash value. And so the cash value column, the total cash value would pay out. It's not always the way to go. And the reason why I'm saying that is because as soon as they take it out in cash, they're going to pay tax on it, right? And if you leave to your heirs, your RSP money, any of the cash value, if you leave that to your heirs, what do they have to do? They have to pay tax on it. If they get their inheritance through the death benefit of a life insurance policy, it's tax-free, right? So it's not always the best thing in the world for somebody to do that. And so that's the one thing you always have to remind people of when they think it's the greatest thing in the world to do that. Remind them, yeah, you're going to take out this cash value of $415, you're 66, you're going to take out this cash value of $415,000, but really your kids are going to get half of it because it's going to be taxed. Whereas if you just leave it and keep paying it or whatever, it's a whole different thing, right? Or they could switch it to premium offset as well, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm probably going to run way over.
The annual dividend.
Yep.
Here.
Yep.
Is that available to them?
They can't, so there is, we'll go back, we're gonna show you dividend choices in a minute. Yes, because they can do that, but they're not gonna get paid up additions.
Right.
So they can take the dividend out. I'm gonna show you that in 2 seconds. Let's just do the quick internal rate of compare here. Is that this here? Okay, so this is what I was talking about. I ran this with the internal rate of return scenario, just in case you have a client that says, oh, I'm just gonna buy a term to 100 and I'm going to invest the difference. Okay. So all you really want to do is just show them what they have to actually earn. So this shows you here the internal rate of return on before tax cash value and also on the death benefit. Now, granted, these don't look like huge returns, but keep in mind they're tax sheltered. Whereas somebody does a segregated fund investment and non-registered, they have to earn, in essence, double that, depending on their tax bracket. That's all. So that's all it really shows them. It's just giving, yeah, you've had a non-registered, vehicle. It's you're putting it in with you know, dollars that are already been taxed, but then on top of that, anything that's earned in there has to be taxed. And while it's still in there, it's taxed. Right? Whereas this is earning interest tax-free, okay? So, you know, like maybe 4.14 doesn't sound like a huge interest rate, but when you look at it and go, yeah, but it's gotta be 8% in a non-registered vehicle just to get the same return because you gotta cover off the tax, then it makes more sense, okay? So we had some questions on dividend options. So do you see right here where I've selected paid up additions? You could do a couple of things. You could apply to your premium payments, okay? So what that in essence does is it reduces premiums. Now it doesn't show a whole lot on the illustration because what it'll happen is at the end of every year, you find out what the dividend was. You would get your annual statement to say what the premium was going to be owing for the coming year, and they would say, based on the dividends you earned, instead of paying $2,000 in premium the coming year, even if you're paying it monthly, they'll still tell you what the total is for the year. You will pay $1,500 because your dividends have been used to offset the premium, okay? The other option is left on deposit, and that is where it is left into a side account, okay?
That side account is usually lower.
Yes. Yes. So, but there would be more accessibility to it. So it is, I mean, people buy this type of plan largely for the paid up additions, typically, is what they do. Now, one of the other things you can do, which is what some people will do, is they will do paid up additions and they will decide they want to do premium offset. Now, this illustration is just going to show you a random premium offset point that you can demonstrate for the client. That's all it does. The client would choose later on when they would do premium offset. They would come to you and say, after maybe 10 years, I now want to do premium offset now. Then then it changes. This one, if you just do it for them, it's just going to give them a scenario just so they have an understanding of what it means, right? But it really depends on when they decide to do it, right? Because most people want to see, you know, is it going to have some growth and, you know, stuff like that. So it does a bit of a random. It's going to take a minute here. Okay, so here, got your regular stuff with your policy, and then you've got your policy growth, you got your cash values, your annual dividend, your total dividend, you've got your your total death benefit amount with your paid up additions. Okay, let me just scroll back up to the top. There we go. Right. Yep. There we go. Okay, so now what this shows is an example scenario of premium offset. So if the client said, okay, as an example, I'm going to pay my premiums for the next 10 years And then maybe I'll decide to use my dividends from that point forward for premium offset. So this shows you the actual illustration that does that. So you'll see that for the first 10 years, it says premiums paid by dividend, 0. Then it shows premiums paid by dividend. It's starting to take all the premium from the dividend. Now, the thing that's going to happen with this is what's happening. Oh yeah, because you're now using your premiums, your dividends to pay the premiums instead of for the growth, okay? So it really is just an example to somebody to give them, because the true illustration was the page before. This is just giving them an example. And really, you would really be in a conversation with the client at that point in time and actually get maybe an enforced illustration to say, okay, based on what's actually in there now, what does premium offset look like? This is just, it's really a selling feature to help people understand that if down the road they change their game plan, because sometimes clients ask that, well, what happens if I change my mind about, I decide I don't want to pay as much? Well, then we can flip it onto premium offset, right? Okay, so that is that. I want to
select that premium offset.
Yeah, it was right. See right here. Here, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
There, you can
yeah.
do that later on.
Yeah. You have to no. You only have to click it here to illustrate it. You don't select premium offset until the policy just goes in as normal. If they decide to do premium offset down the road, then you call in and ask. Yeah, for sure. How are we on time? Okay, we got 6 minutes. I'm going to do a quick child policy on the pay for life, and then I'm going to do the 20 pay. Okay, so we're going to do, we said we were doing a 2-year-old, didn't we? Okay. Oh, we want a female. Okay, we'll do a girly. Okay, but her name ain't going to be Bob. Bob can be the owner. Bob will be the owner. Bob's her dad. Yes, I believe it's a month. I think. Is that what we're trying to do? A month old? Okay. Okay. Well, you don't do a birthday because. Right. Okay, let's try to. We'll do Bob. His daughter will be. Oh, Cindy. I'm doing Cindy. We're going with Cindy. Come on. Okay, I've never tried to do it, so let's see what happens. Seems to be. Everything's bouncing again. Okay, so if we decided to just do a little, even a little policy. Do you have a base? Isn't it running an actual? Do you have a basement? What base? 100,000? Okay, and on a newborn, eh? Okay. Do you want the guaranteed purchase option? Okay, so this is $100,000 for this young lady. Monthly payment, $69 a month with the guaranteed purchase option and the waiver of premium. You all years. And then we'll do the same thing on a 20 pay. Okay.
The assumptions on the last half, you stay with others.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go back. I'll have to go back and look at it in a minute. But I think most of them are around, aren't they most of them around interest rates and inflation?
Yeah, we're not allowed to touch yours, right?
You shouldn't touch them now. Yeah, and yes, yeah, don't, I would just leave that alone because it's the software is already set up to do that. It's more to do with internal rate of return, I believe, and that's different. So just let me quickly finish showing this. Okay, so this is our 1 month old female. The actual annual premium is $829 a year, $100,000 death benefit, and then we're showing the annual dividends and the cash value, and then the growth within the policy. Okay, so this is a pay for life scenario. Okay, so remember 829 and 69 a month, because then we're going to do a 20 pay. The premium will go up because she's just a little one. The premium's going to go up probably a good chunk, but then she also has a paid up policy at 20 years of age, right? So at 100,000, for example, when she's 20, the policy is worth $221,000. Okay?
That's for life, right?
Yep, we're paying for life on this one, yes. After 20, so then if you get down to,
20 years and what?
it was 221,
And the amount of the premium was $69?
69 a month, yeah. Yeah. And then later on, like say at age 30, you're looking more like 317,000. Okay. If they kept it in force, like, and just never did anything with it, it would grow over to $1 million. Like, because that's, I mean, that's a long time, right? Okay. I guess somebody's decided to go back off mute. I don't know if somebody keeps getting cut off and having to re-sign in, maybe. Maybe they have a bad signal. Okay, so that's that one, and I want to show you the 20 pay, okay? So let's do that. 20 pay whole life. And we'll put the GPO on as well at the same amount, just to compare
Are there
evenly.
any specific questions about the newborn in that section where you check off? You know what I mean?
They have to be, it's 15 to 30 days, somewhere in there of age.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one, so the premium does jump because we're collecting a lot less years, but so the premium will be $103 a month. That's with the GPO at 50,000, waiver of premium. And then viewing all years. Yeah, I do view all years, just because with the whole life, you kind of almost want to see every year. I don't know, just because it's all of the growth and everything. There we go. So that is 100,000. So at 20, the face amount on that is 300,000. So that's how was higher than the last one, right? The last one was 2 something, was it? Yeah. 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 So because you're collecting a much higher premium because you're only doing a 20 pay, the face amount at age 20 is going to be a lot higher, but then they're done paying. They're never going to pay again. So what's in here has to cover off the death benefit and the future kind of cost of premium. So some of that is on us because that's the amount we came up with to guarantee it, and some of it comes out of a little bit of the dividend. So you do find the growth is not quite as rapid, okay, or as high, I mean, yes. Yep.
I've asked this many times, but I want to make it totally clear.
Yep.
That on the whole life, see after 20 years, or if the person passes away
Yes.
at 21 years old.
Yep. Yep.
They're not going to get the death benefit and the cash value.
No, they're going to get the total death benefit.
Correct.
Yes.
The only time you access that cash value
Is if you collapse the plan.
Yeah, you
Yes.
collapse the plan
Or loan against it. Yes. Loan against
a
it.
lot of people, when they sell the policy to work with another company,
Yeah.
they're selling it to people, they're saying you're getting both.
No.
So no, you do not get both.
Whatever it says as death benefit is what you get. If it's not included as death benefit, you don't get it.
Correct.
Yes.
If the person decides take the money
Yep.
and go on and invest.
Yep.
So how would that work?
So there's a couple of options. They could cancel the policy and take the cash value out. Yep, they cancel everything. They're no longer insured, but they take the cash value and they can go to college with it. Or they want to leave the policy and they take a policy loan with us. So they take a loan against the cash value of the policy. 6.
And which of the cash values? You go up a little bit, it's blocking it.
Oh, sorry, I know that thing at the
So
top.
if they collapse the policy, they collapse the
They take whatever is in total cash value.
Not the guaranteed one.
Well, because no, but the guarantee's added in there.
Oh, the guaranteed one
Is added into the total.
cash value.
Yeah.
So they would borrow against.
Yes.
Full.
Yes, they're borrowing against the total cash value. So,
90%.
right, so if this, let's go back to where this, this person is a little younger, okay? So, whoopsie, went one too far. So this is being taken out on a newborn, 18 years of age. She's got about $23,000 she can take a loan against.
90%.
Yeah, so she can loan up to that. So look, in my scenario at the beginning, the RESPs are covering off like tuition or whatever. They can access this for accommodations or whatever.
So now, so we take out 90%.
Yep. 6%.
Policy loan.
Yep.
And do we go to the company or the bank?
No, us. It's a policy loan. It's not a collateral loan.
So this is a policy.
This is a policy loan.
It's still equitable.
Yes. Yeah. So the difference between a collateral loan and a policy loan is a collateral loan. You have to go to your bank to get a collateral loan. They have to approve you for a collateral loan. This is a policy loan.
Do you guys have collateral loans?
No, because we're not a bank. No, we don't do collateral loans. We just do policy loans. The difference is for a policy loan, you're not like going in and putting, your house up as collateral or something. It's a policy loan. You're loaning against your cash value that's in the policy. And you borrow that and then you continue to pay your premium. Well, if you have premiums. If you don't, if you're a 20 pay and you borrow it after that, really all you're doing is paying the interest on the loan, which is 6%.
Okay, so I just use some more details of this. So when you get a policy loan.
Yep.
Right, you're not passing a policy, you take a policy loan.
Yep.
And you don't have to pay that back.
No, you just have to pay the interest, the 6% policy loan, the loan interest.
So when you get a bill in the mail to pay the interest back?
Yes, you'd get a,
So you get a statement to pay the interest.
yeah. So if it's part of if you're doing a pay for life, it'll be part of your premium statement. If you're not, and you've done a 20 pay and you're already paid up, it'll just be the interest payment that you'll be, and actually what they'll it depends on how you're paying. I mean, if you paid monthly before, then they would just continue, or they'd reestablish a pad to take the interest every month.
Perfect, so you have to pay the interest on the loan.
Yes.
You take the loan.
Yeah.
Now, if you pass away, obviously,
Yes.
it just comes off.
Yes,
the death
whatever the
benefit.
loan is comes off the total death benefit.
But they don't say you have like 15 years to pay for it or whatever. There's no stipulation of when you can.
No, it's just pay 6%. Yeah. So some people don't pay it back. They just have it taken out of their death benefit or whatever.
What kind of interest rate do you have on a policy loan?
6%.
6%. That's what So you're taking out 6%.
Yeah.
So you're borrowing.
Yeah. So it's just in some cases, it's easier, like you're not going to an institution, like a bank, to get a loan, right? That's all. So, and so some people like that, it's better to do that than go to a bank and ask for money, right? Also, it's harder, like if you just need a little bit for university, college, stuff like that, like sometimes it's not a huge loan you need, right? Just a little bit. Yeah, you can loan it from here. Unless, it's great if mom and dad have a nice line of credit or something. But, yeah, exactly. Or it could be like later on, maybe they want to like, this guy might decide, in his 40s, he's decided, or she, sorry, the house kind of needs an overhaul or something and they need to do something in the house. And, they might go, well, let's just take a little loan against our policy fund here of our total cash value of $97,000. Right? Let's, she's decided I've earned a new kitchen and takes out a $40,000 policy loan to go redo her kitchen.
Well, this is nice, because usually when you buy a whole life, it's based on when you pass away. And
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's a benefit for you, so the benefit for the other person with that benefit.
Yeah.
But this could be something that's like a living.
I think people don't talk enough about the optional policy loans. I think that's part of it.
It's great that you can use it as a living benefit, and use it for yourself to take out some
Yeah.
cash value.
Yeah.
As opposed to not waiting for that person, you have to die and you buy it with someone else. It's
Yeah.
something you can use for yourself.
Mhm.
To the cash value.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the trick obviously is you got to let it build for a little while.
Yeah.
You're not getting a whole lot in the first, like if somebody's going to buy a policy and wants to start taking policy loan in year 3, don't buy this plan.
Long-term.
Yeah, there has to be enough in there to make it worthwhile, right? It's a way of, it's a way for people to use money effectively, because so often people say, I'm going to have insurance and I'm going to have investments and and you know, something suffers. You know, this way it's one plan that's accomplishing a couple of different things, and you know, they have some options with it, I guess, right? Any questions? That's it.
Okay, did you just explain that last time? I just wanted to know.
Oh yeah, I gotta look at it again. I never look at the thing. I gotta go shut this down.
The assumptions.
There we go. Okay.
Investment strategy.
Oh, sorry. Those are for we just added this on. Those are for two different scenarios you can illustrate. So if you go up to report here, you can illustrate a charitable giving option or an insurance investment strategy. We didn't illustrate those. These are the assumptions you're making for those two scenarios only. So they would have probably had, unless you were running a charitable giving scenario or using insurance as an investment strategy scenario, whatever you changed in here wouldn't make a difference to your illustration. So this is based. So it actually does remember when I was talking about internal rate of return and stuff like this? It actually illustrates for you insurance as an investment strategy versus a non-registered insurance. Non-registered investment. So it actually does the full illustration for you.
In terms of taxes.
So it gives you, so you're doing the marginal tax rate. So this is just kind of like a standard high-end kind of marginal tax rate that's assumed here. And then this is your alternate investment rate. You could change that. So you could say, well, the alternate investment's going to earn 7%. Right? So all you're going to illustrate there is here's what's going to happen with the cash value within the plan. And here's what's going to happen.
It's your interest production, right?
Yes.
Taxes money.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Hiding it in here.
Right. So all that is for that assumptions is if you wanted to illustrate that scenario. So under reports, if you pick that, then it's based on what assumptions you have sitting in here.
So for instance, if you had $20,000 in non-registered and $20,000
in a seg fund.
In a seg
Yeah, it's going to do the comparison for you.
Compare and say, hey,
yep,
you're going to be taxed more here.
Yeah, it's going to show you. Well, it's going to show you what one's going to earn more. Right. So really, the benefit between doing it is this is where you have the chat with the client to say, so the insurance is going to earn this amount in return. In order to make it effective or a true comparison, we really need to turn that alternate investment interest rate up to X% because you're going to be taxed on that, right? And so in order for it to be apples to apples, you in essence have to have double of what the insurance is going to do as an investment, right? And so that's just where you fiddle with your assumptions, right, for the benefit of the client. And then same thing, this is a charitable giving strategy. This is just showing you the present value of the money interest rate versus what you think, what % your charitable donation tax credit's going to be. It's really more for people that, you know, if people are doing a charitable giving strategy, you're probably talking about people that have got a lot of money, everything's fully funded, and they're looking for additional tax breaks. And that's what the charitable giving strategy is for.
So this is the additional tax.
Yeah.
I'll call you on this.
Okay. All right. You're welcome. Okay. That's it, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Drive carefully. Try to stay away from the snow. And they did talk about possibility of freezing rain and stuff first and then turning into snow. Okay, so how do I end? Oh, stop share? I guess so.